The organisation was really founded by women from the Lutheran Church and their supporters. And so they have continued to be, the Lutheran Women of South Australia and the Lutheran Women of Australia have continued to be very, very important supporters for us, not only in the funding that they raise, but also in their volunteering. There were only 3 or 4 staff, and I'm still in contact with some of them, and they can't believe that now there's about 130 staff and that we're spread right across South Australia and Northern Territory.
Never in my wildest dreams, when I sat around that table in Stanley Street, did I expect to find what's here today. And the fact that we have had the ability to branch out and see the areas of need and address them.
Our biggest programs are probably around foster care and homelessness. However, from the perspective of lives and people, I'd have to say every service we offer is our most important service, our most successful service, because we're in the business of changing lives, touching lives, and growing opportunities for those who are most in need.
OSGHS is a program for Lutheran community care, and we support families and individuals who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. Well, the service at Morphettvale Vale started in 1993, in April of that year, and there was a manager and 2 support workers and a volunteer admin person, and we now have 17 in our team. I think in saying that, that just shows how the demand and the pressures have added, and the lack of affordable housing in our area has contributed to that. Yeah, I think it sort of stemmed from our original manager of the service, who really was working in another area of community service and just saw that there was a need and there was a high demand for families, in particular in the outer southern region of Adelaide, requiring emergency and crisis accommodation. So discussions started with what was then the Department of Families and Communities, which is now the Department for Human Services, around what can be done with that. And so the units where we are were the first core and cluster in the Adelaide region, and that was where there's an office space and then there's units around there, and they were purpose-built for that particular reason, and it's actually gone on from there.
In foster care services, we recruit for foster carers to care for children who are under guardianship or custody of the minister. So we recruit through information sessions and taking phone calls and responding to web inquiries. Then we provide assessment and training, so we assess them, provide them with training about orientation to foster care. Once we've got a child placed in their care, then we support them. Lutheran Community Care has a long history of being involved in out-of-home care. In the 80s and 90s there was a long-term foster care program. That program stopped late 90s, and in 2008 we went through the process of becoming a general agency again. So in our first year of operating we were able to recruit about 20 families. Today we have over 150 families and 180 children in care. How we've grown and responded to our families is really in a very personal way. Where we could grow would be around providing more therapeutic support services to children and families who are caring for guardianship children. A lot of the children that come into care have experienced a trauma and so need a different type of parenting approach so that they can recover and grow. But some days we get some really good matches made. So that's where, the child's needs and the carer's ability to provide, for the child's needs are a good match, and that can actually really help the child feel settled in their placement and lead to some really positive outcomes.
I'm responsible for the emergency relief and financial counselling across metropolitan Adelaide and Greater Adelaide. The settlement services, the work that we do with refugees, humanitarian entrants, our school-based community hubs program, and our Peachy Place Living Skills Centre, which is a neighbourhood centre in Davern Park. Where Lutheran Community Care started was at this site with an op shop and some basic emergency relief, and so I think those activities would be a mainstay of the organisation. That's where we started, and that's where the broader network that Lutheran Community Care draws from keeps on supporting that and keeping that going. It's unpredictable, so our funding is through a variety of sources, and some of those are stable and some of those are subject to change, and over time you never know for sure what's going to happen in some regards.
So I started working with LCC 25 years ago, but I certainly knew about it 25 years before that, and my mother was involved in the original setting up of the organisation, and my sister did her social work placement there in their very early days after 69. But when I started working as a volunteer 25 years ago, it was just one office, not very many people, not very many staff, and so Lutheran Community Care has certainly grown, but what we've tried to keep is that sense of being local as well. So instead of working from a central base, we try wherever we can to be based locally, and so we're actually connecting with the local people and using local people as volunteers to deliver the services that we have. The number of staff has grown, and we have a lot of part-time staff, so we try very hard to be family friendly, so people can work part-time if they need to, and that means that we have just amazing staff and volunteers. The 500 volunteers who give up their time are just amazing, and we try and support them as much as we can too.
We're in the midst of an exciting time at LCC as we move towards producing our new strategic plan from 2019 onwards. We're in a sector that constantly evolves and changes, so we need to meet the demands of that sector. We want our strategic plan to demonstrate growth. That's our priority moving forwards. Growing to help people as best we can, particularly those most vulnerable and at risk within our community.
The heart of Lutheran Community Care is summed up in the mission statement, but also in the strapline or the little line I used to have under my signature, which was about faith active in love. And for me, that was the passion and the joy.
Strong, caring communities inspired through the love of God is what we came up with, and what we cling to, I think. We can see community in all sorts of ways. Community can be an individual family, it can be a staff group, it can be a volunteer group, it can be a whole community, it can be the whole of the state. And whatever we do in supporting and building strong communities contributes to the strength of our community. The biggest reward comes from being able to work with people and hear the stories of how people have been supported and helped. And so for me, rewarding is always to go to the coalface to see where people are actually working, to meet those people who've come to us for help, to meet with the volunteers, meet with the staff, spend time with them.
As I get around Lutheran Community Care, we've got so many sites across South Australia and Northern Territory. When I go out to sites and I see our work in action, our work in the community, that's the part that excites me the most.
For me, success is when we've actually made a difference in somebody's life, and that happens in everything that we provide.
For me, success isn't measured or determined by financial contribution to our operations. It's determined by the lives we've saved or the lives we've changed.
So our care for others is really, really important. Our care for each other as a team, and our care for those who come to us for support is really, really important for me.
I'm here because I find an alignment between my personal ethics and my values, my faith in God and this organisation. And I think that's the same reason that all of our staff and volunteers are attracted to this organisation. They see the wonderful work we do. They experience it on a day-to-day basis. And I'm no different.